happens at your house and a huge tree, just a big piece of it falls. But by the grace of God, and I couldn't be more grateful for this, look, the house didn't get hit, my house didn't get hit, not a single picket of the fence got hit, none of these cars got hit, none of the power lines got hit. Couldn't be more grateful. How perfect is this? All right, so you probably think, does John know how to use a chainsaw? Maybe. Not safely, because I'm not a safe person. So here's how you use a chainsaw. Ready? They're pretty simple. They're all basically the same. It's got 2 screws right here, whatever, nuts. And you take these off, and then this is how you get your chain on, and then you get your chain tight. And you tighten it back up. In here you put a gas oil mix. In here you put bar oil that lubricates your chainsaw. You turn it on, it's a choke, you pull it, and that's it. It just goes, right? So it's got these dogs in it, these spikes, and if you get close to the tree, then it helps bite in, and it'll get in there, right? So that's good. So I want to tell you, I used to, my first house I built, I was 17 years old, so that was 31 years ago. And when I did, I was pretty poor, and I was, pretty cheap and lazy. And so I bought 20 acres of land, and I was like, man, I want to build a log cabin. I think I know what I'm doing. I did not know what I was doing. And I was like, I'll just cut down these trees. First I dug a fire pit, then I dug an outhouse, then I dug a well. I was like, then I'm gonna cut these trees down and make this house. I don't need a chainsaw. I'm tough. So I go to the store and I buy an axe, and I cut down a tree that's probably about that big around, not that big, right? And it's softwood. It was like a tamarack, which is large. And so I cut this tree down, and it takes me way too long, like an hour. And at the end of it, I'm just like, I'm exhausted. This sucks. I'm gonna buy a chainsaw. So I did. It was like $420. Let me just tell you, best thing I ever did. Later on, a lot of times I've learned life lessons after the fact. Later on, I realized I did not buy an axe. I bought a splitting maul. And for those of you that don't know, a splitting maul basically looks like a sledgehammer, but with a little bit of a kind of a point on it. And it's when you have a log there, and you're like, let me just take this and slam, and it'll split the wood. It is not meant, like, watch this. Imagine cutting down a tree like this for over an hour, and you're like, why am I such an idiot? I don't know. I've learned my lesson. Hopefully you don't do the same thing I did, and you're not as dumb as me. A lot of people are like, John, you're a superhero and you know everything, and let me just tell you, that's not true. So I have to humble myself from time to time by just simply telling the truth, and then letting you guys realize how dumb I really am. So anyway, we're going to cut the rest of this tree up and get rid of it and send it off to tree heaven. If you guys want some free firewood, hit me up, because I don't want this stuff. I'm just going to burn it in my burn pile. Love you, bye. Whew. And that just about does it. So 28 minutes, and we took care of this big limb. Remember, it was all covered over here, and now it's all gone. That's all you need is 28 minutes and a good attitude. So right now, you guys are about, let's take a look here. Yep, about 5 feet away from awesomeness. So congratulations. I hope you like that. Andrew, you want to say anything? Come on over here. Okay. Andrew's my next door neighbor. I love this guy. Here.
Oh, you got me, man.
We do that to each other. So neighbors love each other, and they help each other. Is that right? Absolutely. And so if you need something, you're like, hey, John. And I'm like, yeah. You're like, I want to help. I'm like, I'm good. And then if I need help, I'm like, Andrew.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, you want to help me? You're like, absolutely not. So that's pretty much what it means to be a neighbor. So I was thinking about this earlier. Like, I wonder if, people are like, hey, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you get for being my friend. You get help. And then, like later on, I'll be over there somewhere else, and somebody will help me out, and I'll be like, how come you're helping me out? And they're like, that's what you get for being my friend. And what I hope is that at the end of life, that God's like, check this out. And I'm like, what? And he's like, that's what you get for being my friend. So anyway, hope you guys have a good day. Bye-bye. So a lot of people from PETA, or whatever the plant equivalent is of that, are like, yeah, but what happened to the tree limb, right? Because, we're like, hey, look, we cut this all up. And they're like, yeah, but for the poor tree limb, like, what happened to it? And I'm thinking, well, it's dead anyway, who cares? But just to put everybody's mind at ease, I've got a special portal in my backyard, and I bring this tree limb and other things, maybe from job sites or whatever, and I put them in this portal, and then they disappear. It takes a little bit of time, but they disappear. They don't actually disappear, they like turn into energy. Does that make sense? So that's what's going on. We're almost done. Almost all of it has gone on to its next life. We've made a sacrifice. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to be clear here. So look, to make a sacrifice is not to get rid of your trash. That you don't give over your leftovers and say, oh, look, I made a sacrifice. That's not accurate. To make a sacrifice means that you actually sacrifice something that cost you something. So King David was like, hey, we need to make sacrifices to God, and we need a place to put his temple. And he said, I think this is a good place. And he found the owner of the land. And he said, I need to buy this land from you. And he goes, if this is going to be for God, you can have the land. I don't want to take any money for it. And David said to him, a sacrifice that costs me nothing is not a sacrifice. I will pay you more than the land is worth, because God is worth more than that. And I, am, as the king, am not going to take from you who has less than me and then pretend like I'm giving that to God and that's costing me something. So a sacrifice is not something that is your leftovers. It's not if I have anything left at the end of the week or the month or the year, then I'll give that to God. A sacrifice is your first fruits. That's why Cain and Abel fought in the first place, was because Abel gave his first fruits to God, and Cain was very stingy. It was like, I'll give whatever's left over at the end. And then God favored Abel because he had faith. And then Cain got jealous and killed him. So anyway, there you go. So that's PETA. Now you know our tree is in a better place. It's in its final resting place. All right, love you guys.
So a lot of you guys are like, John, please tell me how to get successful like you. First step, associate yourself with success. This sign here says, associate yourself with success, and it's Waffle House. So good luck. And also they're hiring. So welcome to the next day of the rest of your life. Okay?
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of John Works Too Much. Today, we're going to be doing the monumental task of painting this one single room. It will take literally moments. I hope you have this kind of time. I'd like to talk to you. The first step is take everything off and prep it. We did that already. Then I'm going to spray it. It'll take like 90 seconds. Then we'll wait. We'll spray it again. It'll take another 90 seconds. We take it all down. And that's that. All right, so I want to talk to you about the fact that heaven will be filled with, and a lot of you are going to be uncomfortable with this, filled with drug dealers, prostitutes, strippers, hookers, thieves, liars, murderers, probably some politicians, and a lot of, in general, bad people. And a lot of you are like, ugh, I don't want to be there with them. Guess what, buddy? You're in the same boat. So that may be discomforting to you because you're like, I don't want to be around people like that. Or it may be comforting to you because you're like, I am that person, and I really want to go to heaven too. Jesus died for you. All right, so I want to tell you a quick story. So Jesus told the story about a man and his son was getting married. And he's like, I want everybody to come to this wedding. I want all the important people, the kings, the politicians, the mayors, all these people. I want them all to be here. And he invited all of them. And they're all like, actually, we're too busy to go to your kid's wedding. Sorry. And he's like, I'm kind of the most important person out here. I'm the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And they're like, yeah, we don't have time for you. And so then he's like, well, get the next important people, like step down a notch. And everybody's like, yeah, man, we don't care that much. And so then it goes down and down and down. And finally he goes, get literally anybody that will walk in this door. Get the people out of the streets, the homeless people, the beggars, all those people. Get them and bring them to my son will have a full wedding. And so they did, and they went out and did that. And then he said to a bunch of Pharisees, to a bunch of church people, he said, prostitutes and tax collectors are going in heaven ahead of you because they actually repent, because they actually realize the bad place that they're in, and they turn from their sin and they go to God and they realize what an amazing gift it is. And so if that makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but it's true. And if you're one of those people and you're like, I am absolutely hopeless, God doesn't want anything to do with me, that's where you're wrong. God loves you and he is in the business of making horrible things into beautiful things. We're about to do that with this room. All right, love you guys.
So we're over here working hard in the historic district, and I think it's ironic sometimes the stuff that we protect, right? Like, I think it's a good lesson in life because we're like, but it's always been this way. So let me just show you a couple examples here. You might look and go, oh, this is pretty. I mean, the bars don't exactly line up, but still like has some beauty, right? Then you look over here and you're like, oh, I can see this, right? Like this is definitely, if you like mold and stuff growing in your gutter, that's pretty cool. This is kind of a nice effect, right? If you want some grungy looking thing for a music video or whatever, maybe I'll use that. But then, you know, over here, you're like, oh, this is a cool little downspout. It's a shame this tree grows. Wait a minute. Come here close. Did this tree grow around this gas line? Yeah, it did. That's a gas line. That's under a lot of pressure. They put some duct tape around it. That should be safe, though. Kind of smells like somebody farted. And then you got this, this tree is growing around a gas line and around a gutter. So good job, Historical Society.
so embarrassing.